You have in the Old Testament, the Israelites that are in the desert and they're dying, they're hungering from thirst. That's a very good image for Christian life today. It is a desert. It's a walk in a lot of suffering and pain and tribulation. And Jesus says so, whoever does not deny himself and pick up his cross and follow me, it is a difficult life. We can escape it with the illusions of idols. We can escape it with technology, with money, with comforts, with sin. We can try to control this reality, or we can choose to respond to the reality. But we don't get determined the reality. The reality is given to us by God. This is why it's so frustrating, but not discouraging. At least someone is seeking the truth. But I hear people, young men, seeking the truth and say, well, I believe this about God and this about the Bible, but not this. I like this about Jesus, but not this. But worship is not something that we get to decide and to determine. Just like the creation of the world is not, or the creation of your own life or the family you entered is not something you determined. Or your characteristics and habits, sometimes even our dispositions that are given to you from birth, from your parents, or the way you're raised. It is so easy for man to find an excuse around the great calling of being someone who is living a sacrificial life, which means conforming yourself to the image of your creator. Conform yourself to God. And I bring up the Old Testament analogy because the Israelites were fed on that journey with manna from heaven to sustain them. And you have this paradox. God says, the kingdom of God is in your midst, and yet we're still in this world. Was God with the Israelites in the Old Testament in the desert? Yes. He was walking with them. He was there in the pillar and the cloud. But yet they were under a lot of distress and suffering. And what he sort of gave them to sustain them was the manna from heaven. That was their food to get them to go to the promised land. And so the Eucharist is, in Catholicism, both now, it's the reality of God, but not yet. It's something that we're anticipating to come to. It's like fulfillment in heaven.
And for people that don't understand all of this, they could be growing a lot spiritually if they give the effort to understand it, because then you're not just going to be going to Mass as a ritual or a routine just because your family goes or just because it's a part of your life, but you're actually going to be gaining a lot more benefit from this Eucharistic sacrifice and from you conforming yourself to the will of God. This is what it means to worship. It means that you do it either way, because worship is that you're going outside of yourself and you're giving yourself to another, to God. And so it makes sense that it's not going to be according to your way or your will, because just the act of worship itself means that you're doing something, you're offering something of yourself. And this has to do with all of the other sacraments as well. You know, people that don't understand why we confess to a priest, for example. Okay, they don't understand. Well, first of all, they should try to understand from a Catholic perspective why we do it. And if they don't understand, I would encourage them to just do it. Go outside of yourself. Trust in the words of Jesus. Why did Jesus give the power of the forgiveness of sins to his apostles? It's because he wants us to do this.